My name is Dan Goldhamer, and I'm the horticulture agent for CSU Extension in the city and county of Denver. And this is my garden helper today, Madeline Hazel Goldhamer. So what we're doing today is we're doing direct seeding of our vegetable crops. And this is different than transplanting in that we're doing some seeds just from seeds directly seeded into the soil. So nothing that's started in the greenhouse. And what we're going to do today is plant everything that you could plant in your garden today, right now. But before we get started planting, there's some things you definitely want to think about before you direct seed. The first is doing bed preparation. And to really set yourself up for success, you want to make sure that your bed is nicely prepped. And that means you need a fine and firm seed bed, which will help ensure good seed to soil contact. And this is what allows water to get into the seed and help germination. How you get that nice, fine, and firm seed bed is, through gentle tillage to break up any big clumps. And if, you might need to just press it down a little bit to help tuck it in. And then what you also want to start thinking about is what you're planting and the spacing it needs. So, just like people doing social distancing, plants need their own space to really grow and thrive best. No one likes to be elbow to elbow with their neighbor. You can't thrive in that kind of situation. So the two types of seed spacing you need to think about is both your in-row spacing, so that's the distance between one seed to the next within a row, and then also your between-row spacing, so you plant a row of lettuce and then how far do you move over before you plant that next row. The other really important factor that you need to control is your seed depth, and that is because if you plant those seeds too deep, they won't have enough energy to break through the soil and germinate and reach the surface of the soil before they exhaust all of their energy. And if you plant them too shallow, they might not get that nice seed to soil contact to get nicely tucked in. General rule of thumb is you want to plant a seed 2 to 3 times as deep as its thickness. So, for really little tiny seeds like carrots and lettuce, that's very shallow. Whereas, larger seeds like zucchini or squash can go much, much deeper in the soil. The other thing to think about is this is really hard for new gardeners to really grasp and really get the gumption to do it, but it's thinning. So we'll plant things closer than they need to be today, and as they germinate, we'll start actually removing or killing some of the plants so that the other plants can survive and have the room to grow. It might feel a little yucky at the beginning, but it's really important, again, to get those plants the space they need. And then the last idea that we want to talk about today is succession planting. And this is the idea that if you plant, your full bed of lettuce all today, that you might have way too much lettuce for your family to eat and when it's ready. So rather, you can plant what you might eat in a week, and you keep planting that every week or every other week so that everything is fresh and delicious, and you're not left with a bunch of leftover produce that might go to waste. So the first thing we're going to plant is our radish. Today we're planting these beautiful Easter egg radish blend. So it's multicolored. And when we think about radish, these are a great crop because they're, cold tolerant and are very, very quickly get to a crop. So we'll open up our seed packet. Yeah, we can do it together, Maddie. So as you can see, radish seed is, somewhat small, so we'll be planting them at a depth of 1/2 inch. And our in-row spacing, radishes aren't that big, so they only need about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in between each seed. And again, since they're not that big, our between-row planting, is about 5 inches all the way up to 12 inches. The fun thing about gardening is there's a million ways to do it. Some people can like really tight beds, and some people like a little bit more space in their garden. So I like to say there's 2 million ways to farm, 1 million ways to do it right, and 1 million ways to do it wrong. So now we got our measuring tape out. We'll put it in the garden. We'll use a tool to first kind of get that use our hands to get a nice firm seed bed. And we'll create our furrow or our trench to dig our soil in, or plant our radishes in. So again, we can use a finger, you can use a tool. We're shooting for that 1/2 inch depth. And then we kind of place our radish seed in our hand, and then we sprinkle one every inch or so. And don't worry if you get closer than they need. You know, we can always thin. Especially if your seed's older, you might want to plant, 2 seeds every inch. And that way you can make sure you get good germination rates and a nice stand of radish.
There you go.
She brought over my watering can. This is great. Thank you, Maddie.
You're welcome.
Oh, Maddie, you're such a big help.
I want to powder.
Okay. You want to put some seeds in our little trench?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you put one seed right there? Right here, right here, right here. Okay, great. And so now we'll kind of fill our trench back in and tuck it in so it gets that nice seed to soil contact. And what we'll do is we'll mark where we planted our radish right here with our, radish packet. And we'll plant some more rows later, but to keep this a little bit smaller or shorter, we'll move on to our lettuce. Okay. All right, so now we can move further over into the garden. And to plant our lettuce, these are really tiny seeds. And so they can basically be sprinkled on the surface and then covered up as we go. And since we're doing this for kind of a salad mix, not head lettuce, we can also just kind of broadcast them or sprinkle them as we see fit. So again, we'll kind of prepare our seed bed, make it nice and fine and firm.
Can I do it? I want to do it.
Yes. Okay, Maddie, can you take some lettuce seeds and sprinkle them in our trench? Okay, how about over here? How about right here? Can you put some right here? Right here? Great job. Okay. So I'll just kind of finish out this row. Again, we're just kind of sprinkling them or broadcasting them. Okay, and to cover them up, we'll just kind of lightly sprinkle some soil on top and then tuck it back in. We don't really want to bury them too deep because again, these seeds are so small and lettuce actually benefits from a little bit of light to help it germinate.
Can I use the water?
We'll water at the very end. All right, and lastly, we're gonna plant some spinach. Spinach is a great crop to plant right now because, it's very frost tolerant and, nutritious, delicious, and everyone's familiar with it. Maddie, do you like eating spinach?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So for spinach, we are again working with that kind of a 1/2 inch depth. And then in our in-row spacing, so think about spinach plants and they're a little bit bigger. So we'll give them about 6 inches of space. We'll plant them multiple seeds every 6 inches and then thin to the strongest. And then our between row spacing again will be 6 inches to 12 inches. Here you go. Here, Maddie, here you go. Thank you. Fun thing about planting with kids is, you'll never know quite where everything gets planted, but that's okay. Okay, so we're creating our furrow. Again, shooting for that, kind of 1/2 inch depth. Packing it down a little bit for a nice, fine, firm seed bed. And, I'm gonna sprinkle 2 seeds every 6 inches. And so that way, maybe I'll do 3 seeds every 6 inches. That way, we'll thin it out and guarantee good germination. All right, tuck them back in. Again, don't be afraid to really kind of tuck them back in. You don't want to compact your soil, but you do want really strong seed to soil contact. Now let's water it, Maddie.
I want to do it by myself.
Okay. So.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, good job. So yeah, you want to water in whatever you seeded, and water is so important for germination. Oop, we lost our little top. That you're going to be ending up watering, pretty frequently, but pretty shallowly. What you want to do is keep that surface of the soil moist. You don't want it to dry out until you get germination. As the plants get a little bit bigger, There you go. Can you help, Maddie? As your plants get a little bit bigger, that's when you can start watering deeper into that soil profile to help encourage rooting growth. But right now, the name of the game is just keeping that surface soil nice and moist.
I want to do it.
Yeah, here you go. Okay, Maddie, can you do it now?
Yeah. I'll do it.
Things you want to make sure you're doing too is recording where and when you planted them. Record keeping is, not everyone's favorite thing to do, but it'll really make you a better gardener. You make so many decisions as a gardener every growing season, there's no way you can remember everything you did. And that way, if you write it down, you can make adjustments for next year and know what worked better. So that's direct seeding this morning. One also thing that can really help with germination and protection from cold is using floating row covers. Irene will be talking about that next week, so please be sure to tune in for that.